Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up?
Hello, thank you again for tuning into another episode of My Story, My Challenge, Strength 365-Day Challenge, a place where I created for myself to see where I came from and where I am now, and help others who might be struggling with their journey and acknowledge that peace and healing is possible. It's just sometimes it's a little hard, sometimes it's a little messy, but it is possible and it is worth it. So this episode contains emotionally intense content related to death of a child, parental grief, emotional abandonment, betrayal by loved ones, housing insecurity, cold exposure, and unresolved trauma in the midst of mourning. It features themes of loss, being unsupported during a crisis, family dysfunction, and the emotional chaos that follows tragedy. Please proceed with caution. If you're currently experiencing acute grief or trauma, consider watching with a support person or not at all, or pausing if you need to. This story is not shared for shock, it's shared to honor the pain that many carry alone. So today I want to talk about one of the hardest moments of my life. It was the first couple of weeks that I lost my child. I talk about that a lot because he will never be forgotten, ever. And what we went through was a tragedy. It was horrible, and I will never stop talking about that. That hopefully will help others understand that when someone is going through grief, what they need is support, not judgment. I really don't like reliving these moments, but I know that and understand that he is always with me, and he is with me. My son was one of the most beautiful people that you would ever know. He had a smile that it would light up a room. And he loved so hard that, most people had no choice but to love him back. He was such a beautiful person. He was one of three parts of my heart because I have three children. And after losing him, that part was shattered. And there's a part of my heart that's always missing because he's no longer in this life. So when I woke up to that call about him, I was devastated. When the doctor told me there was nothing that they could do, I thought I was going to die right there with him. I was broken and confused. Then I realized I had to tell the siblings. He is the oldest of my three children, so they looked up to him so much, like a father, a brother, a brother, and they were their best friend. And I was more terrified of anything to do that, but I did. I told them that their best friend was gone and that he would never be in this life again. They didn't cry or scream. They just kind of sat there numb and not understanding, maybe hoping that I was playing, but when reality sunk in, they were just as lost as I was. And the first few days I sat there not knowing what to do, answering calls, making plans, answering calls from people who didn't even want to check on me, but expecting me to support them during their loss. Yes, my loss, but their loss. Then, we had to go handle business, and we came back. My step friend, she's my so-called friend, started to show signs that she was irritated with us being in her home, and made sure that let us know that it was time for us to leave. This is about a week and a half, maybe two after my son died. Maybe about a week after my son died. My partner had a cousin who was okay with our relationship, and she allowed us to stay with her. She had a 3-bedroom in a public housing apartment complex, and we stayed with her for maybe a week before it got bad. I bought my partner a car so that he can get around while I was at work, see his daughter, take my daughter to school, do whatever else was needed. But his cousin, who's hearing impaired, she wanted to drive his car. That wasn't the reason that he didn't let her. Well, it wasn't the only reason, but he's not gonna just hand the keys to his car over to someone because he's staying at their house. Like, you want me to let you drive my car? Okay. But she made it seem like that was his own. She made it seem like it was the reason why he wouldn't because I can't hear, and it wasn't that. He really doesn't let just anyone drive his car. I think I may have let him see. I've seen him outside of our kids. Saw him let one person drive his car ever, and that's kind of how we both are. People don't just let people drive their cars these days because not a lot of people respect what belongs to other people. So we didn't take that chance. But she got mad and started acting out. And during that time, again, it wasn't even a week. She decided to go out and leave and hang out. And he was gone with his daughter. And she locked the doors and went to her sister's house. It didn't really affect him because, again, he's with his daughter. He was out taking her to see his uncle with his family. And I called him and let him know we were locked out. He knew my car didn't have heat. Everyone who knew me at that time knew my car didn't have heat. And it's January, maybe early February, and we're living in the Midwest. It's freezing, snowing even. And I drove around for hours waiting for him to finish. I called him so many times asking what was taking so long, and letting him know that we were still locked out and trying to find somewhere to sit, warm, so that we wouldn't be locked in the car. I went home a few times to see if she was there, but she wasn't. And I had to try my hardest to keep it together while my children were watching me and while we were all in this car freezing. Finally, he took his daughter home after hours, and he met up with us. We got in his car. We were able to warm up, but I mean, like I said, our hands were blue. We were freezing, and I had to try my hardest to not yell at him, not to yell at his cousin. We went to get his cousin at her sister's house, and she let him know, like, well, you don't have to be locked out. If you want the keys to my house, then you need to give me the keys to your car. And of course, we both agreed no, but we did argue a long time in the car when we got back about how he just took his time letting us sit in the cold, but he didn't see why that was not okay. That's his car that I just bought him. I bought him that. His car had heat, and we were in the cold. He could have just taken his daughter home and did that another time, but instead he chose to let us sit in the cold and not even tell us where he was so that we can get in his car and sit in the heat. Like, we didn't have to. At the time his daughter didn't even know we existed, so it's like, we don't have to sit in your car. I mean, we don't have to go up there. We don't have to see your daughter. We just needed to be warm. Um, so the next day we had to drive around until we found an extended stay where we could afford, and we moved in there. And that was when we were a bit more stable. But that was the start of the worst year of my life, the year of fighting with him and everybody he loved to get respect while trying to grieve my son. So the first 2 to 3 weeks of after my son passed, I had to deal with my ex stealing the funeral money, trying to fight me, a long train ride to Washington to get the car, while I left my kids with my younger two children with someone I trusted who let them run the streets of St. Louis at 2 or 3 in the morning. Um, Going to California, dealing with that. Then my partner, my so-called best friend, not my partners, kicking us out. Not even a week after we got back. My partner and his cousin beef causing me and my kids to freeze in the car after I made sure he had reliable transportation instead of getting the heat of my car fixed and being called a man on social media, like being yelled at for asking him to have his, at the time, wife to stop texting him all hours of the night. Like, all of these things happened within the first week or so of me losing my son. And that was just, oh, I can't even describe. So I would love to say things got better, but if you've listened to previous challenges of these episodes, you'll see that it wasn't. That was the worst year of my life. So to identify the wound, I learned that even in my deepest pain, people would still expect me to be their support system. I wasn't allowed to just grieve. I had to perform strength while screaming inside. I believed I had to keep everyone else afloat while I was drowning. It taught me that the world doesn't make room for a grieving Black mother. I felt erased. I felt like I didn't matter, and not even in my own story did I have any type of compassion. I wasn't just mourning my child. I was mourning the idea that anyone would show up for me in the way I've always shown up for them. Um, Reflection question: have you ever been in so much pain that the people around you forgot that you were the one hurting? And how did that affect your ability to trust others again? So, if you guys hear that, I'm so sorry. My son called me without even caring that I am on my line, but he's gonna have to get off my phone. So we're gonna keep going and go to my affirmation, not my mindset. I don't want to my children. I don't want to my children. My mindset was that nobody cared about me, even in the situation that I was going through, and that I had to handle the hurt and everything alone. Okay, they hung up. Even when I'm shattered. See, this is authentic, you guys. This is life. Life is gonna keep lifing. So my negative mindset was that nobody cared, even when I was hurt. I had to handle everything alone, even when I was shattered. But I had to reframe that thought And the truth is, people's inability to support me wasn't a reflection of my worth, it was a reflection of their limitations. My strength isn't defined by silence or sacrifice. It's in my voice, my boundaries, and my truth. I survived grief and betrayal, and I never stopped showing up for my children. That's power. And my affirmation is I am not invisible. My pain does matter. I'm worthy of support, and I choose to honor myself even when others don't. So let's go to that mini session, okay? That mini session of coping tool. I'm sorry, the pressure point pulse reset. I think this is, oh, yay. This is a grounding through body technique, okay? So find the pulse. You can check right here on your wrist. The easiest one is right here, like where your chin is at, where this little curve is. If you put two fingers right there, you can feel your pulse. Now close your eyes and focus on that beat. Boom. Begin breathing slow. 4 seconds in, hold 2 seconds, 6 seconds out. Match each breath to that pulse. And while you do that, say silently to yourself, I am here, I am alive, I am still beating. This technique creates a biological feedback loop to calm your nervous system in moments of panic or grief. Your pulse reminds you you are still here and you are still holding on. Now, here is our 1 minute empowerment challenge. Okay, this is the take up space challenge. Choose a moment, choose one moment today that interrupts your silence, like my kids calling me in the middle of my live. Choose one moment, whether it's calling someone out, telling your truth, or simply refusing to apologize for needing rest. Take up the space that they try to erase from you, like I had to hang up, and then write it down. Say out loud, post it if you need to, but do not shrink. This is how we reclaim power, one bold, defiant moment at a time. Okay, now our survivor spotlight. This one's one that's going to hit me hard. It's Miss Mamie Till, beautiful woman. Miss Mamie Till Mobley was never supposed to be known by the world, not like this. She's a mother, a teacher, and a woman building a quiet life for herself. She was a mother, a teacher, and a woman building a quiet life for herself and her son Emmett. But the world shattered August 28th. That is the day before my son's birthday, by the way. My son was born August 29th. But on August 28th, 1955, her 14-year-old son was kidnapped, tortured, and lynched in Mississippi for allegedly whistling at a white woman. That child, Emmett Lewis Till, became a name etched in history. And Mamie, his mother, became the embodiment of what it meant to survive unimaginable loss and use it to change the world. In 1921 in Mississippi, and later born in 1921 in Mississippi and later raised in Chicago, Mamie was a brilliant and driven woman. She became the first Black student to graduate from her high school with honors and was determined to give her only child, Emmett, a strong, safe, and hopeful future. But the North could not shield them from the violence of the South, nor from the hatred that claimed Emmett's life. What Mamie did next would alter the course of history. When her son's body was found mutilated beyond recognition, she made a decision that no mother should ever have to make. She demanded an open casket funeral. She wanted the world to see what they had done to her baby. Let the world see what I've seen, she said. That one decision pierced the nation, the nation's soul. Yes. Jet magazine published the photo. Black newspapers carried the story across the globe, and civil rights movement was lit ablaze. But Mamie's power didn't stop at one act of courage. She became a full-time activist, traveling the country to tell Emmett's story, fighting to expose racial violence, and challenging America to stop turning away. She endured courtroom humiliation, death threats, and public scrutiny, all while mourning a child who had been her entire world. Rather than collapse beneath the weight of grief, Mamie poured her pain into purpose. She earned a master's degree in education, worked for decades as a teacher and counselor, and created programs to empower Black youth in Emmett's name. She also co-founded the Emmett Till Players, a theater group that used performance to teach children about justice, dignity, and Black history. Mamie never remarried. She never had another child. Her identity as Emmett's mother remained her most sacred role, and she wore it with unmatched grace and defiance. Her trauma never left her, but she made sure that it didn't go silent. She demanded justice even when none came. She showed generations of Black mothers, activists, and survivors what strength under fire truly looks like. And me. Mamie Till Mobley survived the deepest pain a mother can endure, the violent hate-fueled murder of her child. She survived the weight of a nation's indifference, the courtroom filled with lies, and justice system that let her son's killer walk free. She survived not just the death of Emmett, but the global spectacle of her grief. She endured being used as a symbol while still aching in silence as a mother who would never again hold her baby boy. But Mamie did not let her sorrow destroy her. She transformed it into fire, a fire that sparked revolutions. She was not trained as an activist, but she became one. She was not famous before Emmett, but she became legendary after. She is the reason that the world knows Emmett's name, the reason that the first sparks of the civil rights movement were lit, and the reason that countless Black women saw what it meant to fight back with truth. Mamie Till Mobley turned a lynching into a legacy and grief into generational power. So Mamie Till Mobley, we thank you for your unimaginable bravery. Thank you for choosing visibility in a time where you were expected to disappear. Thank you for showing us that motherhood can be activism, that grief can be fuel, and that Black pain must never be hidden to preserve white comfort. You changed the world in the face of unspeakable horror. You stood alone when no one stood for you. You turned your son's death into a movement and your love into a legacy. We speak Emmett's name because you made sure the world could never forget. We speak your name because we never will. We hear you, we honor you, and we carry your fire. That meant so much more to me, you guys know. Being alone while mourning your child is one of the worst things possible, and she did it publicly and with grace, and I honor her. Personally, I honor her. You just walked through my hell with me. And if you're still here, it means something in this story cracked you open. Please, please, please subscribe to my channel, Empowered Voices, Finding Strength in Survivors, because we don't just sugarcoat healing, we rebuild from ashes. Watch my podcast, Insights of a Survivor, every Friday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And my podcast, Real and Raw with All Love, every last Saturday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And Kiss Corner with Coach Kiss, every Sunday, 6 p.m. time, to hear more valuable tools about healing, growth, and love. Don't forget to pick up my book, read A Place to Belong by Perry Jasper, a story about a girl who refused to be destroyed by a world built to break her. And if you want to help survivors find a space to speak, to be heard, to have resources, because I am building not just a platform, but also a community filled with resources that can help survivors thrive, and not just trauma survivors, all survivors. Please donate or become a sponsor. Help me, All Love, and Coach Kiss, and so many others like us continue to fight to reach the erased, silenced, and the lost. Click the links in the description to help millions who need a place to heal, because your story does not end in pain, it begins in power. I love you all. Stay strong, and I will see you tomorrow.
Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up? I know the journey got hard for a minute, but I ain't giving this up. Yeah, I got the heart of a champion. If I get knocked down, I get